The Atlanta Falcons are facing the most crucial draft decision in years. With the 15th overall pick and playoff hopes soaring, the margin of error has disappeared. This time around, they can't afford to make mistakes, especially on defense. That's why there's been so much buzz, and we're going to talk about it, so be sure to hit that like button and join us to stay informed. Now let's talk about the growing buzz surrounding Michael Williams, which is very intriguing. There's a change happening in Flowery Branch, and if this draft plays out as many predict, it could mark a new era of commitment to a dominant frontcourt. So let's start with what made Williams such a polarizing and fascinating prospect. Coming out of the University of Georgia after 3 strong seasons, the edge rusher brings more than just raw numbers. He brings tools that defensive coordinators dream of. He's 6 feet 5 inches, 245 pounds, and has a versatility that few defensive ends in this class can match. According to Nick Baumgardner of The Athletic, Williams' scouting profile reflects the heart of this draft class: elite athleticism, untapped potential, and flashes of brilliance without being completely consistent. What sets Williams apart in Atlanta's eyes is his quickness off the snap. It's not just speed, it's reaction, explosiveness in his first step, and the ability to pressure an offensive tackle before the play even develops. Those are the kinds of traits that make them lethal in a division with mobile quarterbacks like Bryce Young and Baker Mayfield. The Falcons haven't had that kind of athletic presence on the edge in years. Leonard Floyd, the team's $10 million free agent signing, certainly helps in the short term, but at 31 and on a 1-year deal, he's not the future. Williams, on the other hand, could be. The sack numbers don't jump off the page, 14 over 3 seasons, but that depends on how Georgia uses its front line. Williams wasn't drafted as a full-time pass rusher. He was part of a system that rotated heavily and prioritized containment and discipline over stat padding. What matters more is his ability to line up inside and become a mismatch nightmare. Baumgardner notes that Williams can kick inside as a 3 technique in a 4-man front line, which could give Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich a rare chess piece, especially in NASCAR packages. This inside-outside flexibility matters. It allows the Falcons to deploy Williams alongside Arnold Ebiketie, who thrives as a speed rusher in space. That pairing could finally give Atlanta the type of pass rush diversity that's been missing for over a decade. And here's the real kicker: Atlanta has never taken a Georgia Bulldog in the first round. Never. Choosing Williams would not only signal a philosophical change in how the Falcons value pass rushers, but also break a strange pattern in a franchise that's spent years passing on in-state elite talent. But while all eyes are on Williams, head coach Raheem Morris has been careful not to tip the team's hand. During league meetings in Palm Beach, Morris emphasized the need for pass rush but made it clear that the team isn't locked into taking an edge rusher at 15. "You don't necessarily control the draft," Morris explained. "You'd like to address needs, but sometimes you have to let the board come to you." That ambiguity is strategic. Morris has personally visited pro days at Georgia, Marshall, Ohio State, and Texas A&M. That's not just due diligence, that's active scouting. He's seen top-tier talent like Jalen Walker, Mike Green, J.T. Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Shamar Stewart, and Shamar Turner. These aren't just names, they're potential franchise anchors. The Falcons are clearly digging deep on this class, and they're looking for more than just raw sack totals. So how does Williams stack up against those other prospects? His edge is in versatility and consistency. Stewart and Green may be flashier in testing, and Tuimoloau has big game production, but Williams has shown NFL-caliber traits in nearly every facet, plus he comes from a pro-style system at Georgia. Add in the value of local scouting familiarity, and it's easy to see why he's rising to the top of Atlanta's draft board. And yet, even with all this attention on the defense, the Falcons are also navigating one of the most fluid quarterback situations in the league. Kirk Cousins, the current QB in Atlanta, has been the subject of trade rumors, most notably involving the Cleveland Browns and Pittsburgh Steelers. The Athletic's Diana Rossini and Jacob Robinson recently floated the idea that Pittsburgh could circle back to Cousins if their draft plans at QB fall through, especially since they don't hold a second-round pick. However, that idea may be more speculative than solid. James Palmer from Bleacher Report reported that Arthur Smith, now with the Steelers and previously the Falcons head coach, still has connections in Atlanta and isn't pushing for Cousins. If Smith has done his homework and doesn't like what he sees, Pittsburgh won't pull the trigger, regardless of how clean the logic appears on paper. Cousins' no-trade clause adds another layer of complexity. His camp reportedly won't even consider waiving it until after the draft, leaving the Falcons in a waiting game. This means Atlanta has to prepare for two realities, one where Cousins stays and one where he's moved post-draft. And the team must balance that uncertainty with the need to solidify the pass rush now. It's a fascinating tension. You have a franchise weighing a possible quarterback trade in one hand while aggressively scouting elite defensive talent in the other. The Falcons aren't just rebuilding, they're recalibrating. They've already moved on from veterans like Grady Jarrett and appear unlikely to bring back Matthew Judon. Morgan Fox, another new signing, brings 15.5 sacks over the last 3 seasons, but like Floyd, he's not a long-term cornerstone. So what does all of this tell us? That Atlanta is poised to make a definitive move. If Michael Williams is on the board at 15, and the Falcons choose him, it signals a new commitment to building a dominant, versatile front, one that can keep up with today's mobile quarterbacks and disruptive offenses. But if they don't? If they trade down or go in a different direction? That tells us just as much. And that's where I leave it to you. What would you do at 15? Do you want Michael Williams? Should the Falcons finally make a first-round bet on a Bulldog? And how do you feel about the lingering Kirk Cousins situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And as we look ahead to how this all plays out, the stakes couldn't be clearer. The Falcons stand at a true crossroads between loyalty to proven veterans like Kirk Cousins and the need to inject youth and explosiveness into a defense that hasn't cracked the top 10 in sacks since 2004. Raheem Morris knows the numbers. He knows 31 sacks last year wasn't enough. He knows relying on Leonard Floyd and Morgan Fox, both over 30, can't be the long-term fix. That's why Michael Williams might not just be the right pick, he might be the only pick that makes sense. A player with inside-outside versatility, freakish first-step quickness, and experience against top-tier competition, Williams fits exactly what Atlanta lacks, dynamic disruption. And selecting him wouldn't just break a draft trend of avoiding edge rushers on day 1 or Georgia players in round 1. It would send a message to the rest of the league that the Falcons are finally serious about building a defense that can win now. Meanwhile, the Kirk Cousins question continues to hover. If the draft ends and neither Cleveland nor Pittsburgh lands a quarterback, phones will ring. But don't forget, Cousins controls the leverage. That no-trade clause holds all the weight, and if he isn't sold on moving, Atlanta could be tied to him longer than expected, for better or worse. So here's the reality. With pressure on the coaching staff to produce and a fan base desperate for real postseason hope, the Falcons' decisions in the next few weeks could define the next 5 years. Draft a difference-maker on defense, manage the Cousins situation wisely, and this team could finally get over the hump. Let me know, should Michael Williams be the guy at 15? Or do you have your eyes on someone else in this stacked edge class? Comment below with your draft pick, and if you want full coverage of every Falcons move, likes, trades, and picks, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel right now. Go Falcons!